Hey, it's David. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at this Lionel Norfolk Southern First Responders train set for 2017. This is a Lioncheif Ready to Run train set, which I got for Christmas back in 2017, and it's got some pretty cool features in it. So let's get started by taking a look at the engine. Okay, starting off the engine, this is a Norfolk Southern GP38-2 number 5642, painted in a very special First Responders paint scheme. Now, when I first got this set back in 2017, I thought this engine was supposed to be inspired by the Norfolk Southern GP60E, which is painted up in a First Responders paint scheme. But upon further research, this is actually based off of a real engine. Norfolk Southern 5642 is a GP38-2 painted up in an almost identical paint scheme to the locomotive, making it a lot more prototypical than I originally thought. So that little fact adds even more value to the set than I initially thought. Now, for the most part, this is your pretty standard Lionel GP38-2. They've included a bunch of these in a lot of their starter sets. This one features Lioncheif control, as well as Lionel Ready to Run rail sounds, and 2 DC cam motors on the inside, as well as working headlight, backup light, and cab light. But to me, where this engine really shines is its paint job. It's a lot more complex than a lot of Lionel's other starter set locomotives. Obviously, the first thing you notice is the various colors and imagery and stuff all along it. I really like the white and gold stripes that kind of flow along up towards the top of the fans and stuff. I like how the fans are picked out in a gold color too. It really just helps to highlight a lot of the details. And I just really like this engine because it's not the same black paint scheme that Norfolk Southern has on most of their engines. But another thing I really like about this is that you'll notice there's all these different emblems and markers and various little things all around this locomotive that just give it another level of detail. For example, at the front of the cab here, you can see there's an American flag, as well as a couple other logos here, and even the identification mark for the locomotive stating it's a GP38-2. Plus these first responder emblems on the side of the, I believe that's the dynamic brake motor housing. These little details really add a lot to me. I think they really just give this engine a higher quality feel than a lot of other Lionel starter set locomotives, and I really appreciate the level of detail that they add. Alright, starting at the front of the locomotive, you can see that really nice Norfolk Southern horse emblem on the headlight there, as well as the lighted number boards at the top of the cab with the actual numbers in them, the headlight, as well as the nice separately applied horn detailing. And if you look in the cab, you can see the 2 hand-painted crew figures. Taking a look along the side of the locomotive, you can get a closer look at all those emblems and printing that I was talking about before. These are really, really high quality. They're not blurry or faded in any way. They're all legible, and I think they just, like I said before, they add a really nice level of realism to the locomotive. And moving towards the back of the engine, you can see even more printing detail with the Norfolk Southern logo, as well as the training first responders text along the side, as well as, I believe this is supposed to be a ladder. I'm not 100% sure about that, but that makes the most sense to me. And more of these warning placards on the doors and stuff. Just little things like that that really add another level of detail to this engine. And looking at the top of the locomotive, you can see even more details such as a separately applied horn. I believe this is supposed to be the dynamic brake fan, as well as a couple other fans towards the back, and the exhaust here. And this piece is actually removable. I'm not exactly sure why Lionel does this, but on all of their GP38 and GP40 models, the dynamic brake fan housing is removable. I guess maybe to model other versions of the engine differently, but it's something I've always been curious about. Looking at the back of the locomotive now, you can see that Norfolk Southern logo in more detail, as well as the reverse light, and there's some really nice grab irons leading up to the top of the engine. Overall, I think this is a great engine. It's got some nice detail, plus a really nice weight due to the metal fuel tank and frame, but my favorite part obviously being that really awesome paint scheme. But anyways, let's take a look at the rolling stock. The first car in the set is this unibody tank car, and this is not only my favorite car in the whole set, but also one of my favorites in my collection. I really love these Lionel unibody tank cars. They are great pieces, they're scale-sized, have some really nice detailing, and overall I think they're just awesome pieces of rolling stock. I think they look great in any modern train, and this car is no exception. It's got a really nice level of detailing, which you'll see shortly, with lots of a surprising amount of separately applied metal detailing for a ready-to-run car. Plus, you can see that great Norfolk Southern First Responders scheme still continued along it with the flowing gold stripes and such, and even more great printing and emblems all along the car. Now, I believe the reason these cars are called unibody tank cars is, as you can see, the tank of the actual car is one big smooth container, which I'm assuming just means it's one tank that's welded together in one piece, and it's not riveted together like some other tank cars that I've seen. But anyways, let's take a closer look at some of the nice detailing on this car. The top of the car here has some really nice detail. This is all metal, and it's got an etched metal floor which is see-through, as well as all these really nice little metal grab iron details that go all the way around this hatch here, and this ladder that goes all the way down to the bottom of the car, which connects to this metal rail that runs the length of the car. Now, I'm not quite sure why, but mine is like pitted for some reason, and it's the only part of the car that has this issue. So I'm not sure if it was just something with the paint not adhering to it properly, but it's like that on both sides. But it doesn't really ruin the look of the car for me. I just thought I'd point it out. And now we're looking at the end of the car. This is my favorite area on the whole car. It's got a bunch of different metal detailing, as well as the really nice print up top. As you can see here, there's some sort of like, I believe it's like probably an air tank for the brakes or such. That's made of metal, and it's got this nice metal piping that runs all the way to this conduit or something here. Separately applied brake wheel up top. Plus, it's a little hard to see, but running from the brake wheel down to the etched metal step right here is an actual little chain. As well as some metal placards and things, but there's no printing on them. Overall, I definitely think this is an amazing car. It really doesn't feel like something that belongs in a starter set. I think it fits more well with like the higher quality scale stuff that you'd find. There's a reason it's one of my favorite cars in my collection, and I think it really makes the set for me. Alright, the next car on the set is this high-cube boxcar, and from the outside, this seems like a relatively normal, unassuming high-cube boxcar, until you open the door, and you see that. And you might be wondering why there's a paper cutout of a house on the inside of this car, and the reason for that is that Norfolk Southern in real life has a car very similar to this, which they used to train first responders on the inside. So I think that is super cool that Lionel represented that here. They could have easily just left that out, and I think it would have gone basically unnoticed, but the fact that they went through the trouble of putting that in there is super cool, and it's really hidden. You'd have to know about it to really find it. But I think that makes this relatively simple car into something that I really like. But on the outside itself, you can see there's a ton of really nice printing on it. Again, continuing the theme of the set with that black and red painting and all that stuff like that. Now, Lionel's high-cube boxcars kind of have a reputation for being lower quality, and I think that stems from the MPC era where they were very lightweight. You couldn't really operate them in long trains, but this is definitely not that. This is die-cast metal trucks on it, and overall feels like a nice car. It's got a good weight to it, and it runs well. And, of course, it's got kind of that little hidden secret in there, so I think it's a great piece. All right, looking at the next car is this depressed center flat car, and this is probably one of the most unique cars in my entire collection, because that is a remote control helicopter in it. Now, I'm assuming the remote control helicopter is meant to represent some sort of emergency response vehicle. It doesn't do a great job at that. It's a relatively cheap RC helicopter, one that you might find at something like the Dollar General or so. But I think it's a really cool piece that they included it. Now, unfortunately, mine never worked. I never was really able to use it at all. But that's not why I got this set, so it didn't really bother me too much. And it's not actually made by Lionel. It even says on the box that the RC helicopter comes in that this would not be able to be sent into Lionel for repair simply for the fact that they do not make it. But other than that, I think it's a really cool car. Now, you're not really able to launch the helicopter, so to speak, off of the car unless you kind of just set it in there, because the bottom of the skates actually kind of clip into it. But if you do just set it on top of them, then I think you'd probably be able to do that. The car itself is pretty nice. It's simple design that Lionel's made since the 40s, but it has some nice detailing, such as these separately applied brake wheel stands, as well as these little steps on each corner of the car. Again, it's a pretty nice quality piece because it has die-cast metal trucks. And having an RC helicopter on top is super unique and super cool. And it's something I haven't really seen in too many other sets. I really can't think of any other train set off the top of my head that includes any RC vehicles of any sort. So I think that its addition in the set is super cool and super unique. And lastly, we come to the Caboose, which again matches the theming of the whole set, but is most similar to the engine because it's got the flowing white and gold stripes along the side, as well as all the emblems that match up, including the Norfolk Southern Operation Awareness and Response badge right there. This is one of Lionel's extended vision cabooses, which, if not scale, I believe is pretty close. Maybe it's a bit narrow, but I do believe it probably is roughly the right dimensions. And I think this is a really cool, really nice piece. I mean, it's a pretty high quality piece. It's a good size. It's got a good weight. It's got a good bit of separately applied detail, such as brake wheels on each end of the car, these metal ladders, as well as a little separately applied smokestack, which is pretty nice. Now, this is meant to replicate modern cabooses that would have been used by railroads from the the mid-80s. Up until the end of cabooses on railroads in the early 90s. One thing that's always kind of confused me about this car, though, is it's got arch bar trucks on it, which are a design that were popular in the late 1800s in the U.S., so it doesn't really fit the modern styling of this caboose, but that's okay. It doesn't bother me too much. You can kind of see there, underneath the car, it does have some nice metal detailing, and overall, it's a good piece, and it's a nice way to end off the set. Overall, I think this is a great set with a lot of really nice little hidden details in it. But anyways, let's run this around the layout for a little bit. Alright, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please consider giving it a like and leaving a comment. And if you want to see more stuff like this, subscribe to my channel. Thanks.